Hello, my chocolatiers. Chikopi here. Why am I so quiet every single time? Hello! Chikopi here. Hi. Chocopi. I always pronounce my own name wrong. It's a weird phenomenon. If you've read the title, obviously you know what I'm doing. If you haven't read the title, fair enough. I hardly read titles either. I am redesigning my OC. Chikopi. Not Chikopi, he's not my OC. No, freaking hell. Mori! How did I forget my main OC's name? I'm redesigning Mori. Why?
Because Mori's build is very confusing. See, he has like a doll-like build, and I don't like the way I've designed it. It's weird, it's really awkward to draw, and it's not the most interesting to look at. I was kind of aiming more towards the functionality of his build. This is how he twists his body and stuff. And I had to, do all that. But it's also just weird to look at, and I feel like it needs to be more human shaped, It's just not very human shaped. It's more like those weird dolls that make your drawings look all stiff when you try to use them for reference. So I'm not using those anymore. I never use them. Actually, what did happen to my... I think about one of my siblings broke it, actually. I used to have one, now I don't. And I also kind of went for the design I did with the doll-like design because Mori is supposed to be more androgynous. So I've got to work more on his design. I'm just going to read it.
So obviously it's based on this. Maybe I'll put a picture up, I don't know. Hello, hi, I'm doing a voiceover now. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm writing down his key aspects, trauma, clothing, scars, etc. Honestly, these things didn't really come into the art that much in the end product, but whatever. It's hard to show his physical signs of trauma when he wears such covering clothing. He's definitely gonna be childish. I keep trying to avoid this, but he'd definitely be childish. So I changed Mori's eye color to be yellow or orange. I'm having to redo this take because CapCut glitched out. I changed his eyes to be a different color because the green eyes, he only had the green eyes because he was originally a persona. By the way, Mori is a My Hero Academia OC for the newcomers, but not OC for the whatever. Mori only had the green eyes because he was originally a persona, and I feel like his green dough-like eyes are a little too similar to Deku's eyes, so I changed them to be yellow. Also, since yellow is Mori's favorite color. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm writing down his height so I can better distinguish his proportions. Not that it's that important, really, in the actual art, because I chose a different pose in the end. The reason I chose this pose to start out with was because I kind of wanted to represent the fact that he isn't the best at using his legs, because most of the time he was kind of crawling around and stuff like that because he didn't really have the strength to hold himself up due to malnutrition. But now that he isn't malnutritionized, malnourished, that's the word. Now that he isn't malnourished, he's able to stand, but he's still kind of getting used to it, not to mention the fact that he has chronic pain, so he still can't really handle standing upright properly. Here's where I decided that this pose just wasn't right for him based on like his character in itself. So I decided to make him Gollum sit, just crouching down, holding his legs, just in a more comfortable position the way he would have normally sat down and held himself. Even though technically if he was malnourished even, technically if he was malnourished he probably wouldn't have had the strength to hold himself up like this in this position. And I mean, I guess if he's been doing it his whole life, he's kind of used to it. I don't really know. I don't know. Would he have the strength? Anyway, in this scene right here, he does have the strength because of all his strength training and stuff. And he did have training when with overhaul, so it's not like he was completely weak. He was just slightly malnourished in a way that did make it difficult to stand for long periods of time. Adding his horns, which I always forget to add, and the worst part about having an OC with horns is just trying desperately to figure out what the perspective is and trying to make sure the horns aren't weirdly like leaning downwards. It's why I've made it so that with my other OC, who also has Highland cow horns, I've made it so that it's just a part of him that his horns are slightly leaning downwards. Because I'm just like, I'm sick of having to try and make them straight, because I'm never gonna get them straight. They'll never be straight, it's just impossible. And here I just couldn't figure out what was wrong with the perspective. I knew something was off, but I couldn't figure it out. So I just kept redrawing the horns and eventually just gave up and, you know, stuck with this little, like, it stretched it out a bit, but like that's it. That I just left with that because I could not figure it out. So for a while there, I gave him a tail because I wanted to more so emphasize his Highland cowness, but the tail just was not it. Also, that does not look like a Highland cow tail. It looks more like a dog tail or not cat tail. But you know, it does not look like a Highland cow tail. Highland cow tails are very one-shaped. You know, they don't have much structure to them from what I've seen. They're not as flexible as other animals' tails, like dogs. Like I don't think a cow could wag its tail, you know? So I definitely didn't draw it right, and at the end I decided to get rid of it. But that was after rendering, so you won't see me get rid of it for a while now. So for a moment there, you probably saw me drawing his hair pretty long, and I didn't actually get rid of that. I just made it so that he had a similar hairstyle to your, where it's kind of pinned upwards, like under itself. The reason I've made his hair much longer is because, realistically, after everything Mori's been through, he would not trust a hairdresser near him. Like, he would not trust anyone with any kind of sharp objects to come near him, especially not touch him with them. So he probably wouldn't have been comfortable to get a haircut, especially not as soon after what happened to him as when I originally drew him with a haircut, which he was like 13, 14 in that picture, which is only like a year or two after he escaped Overhaul. So there's no way he would have been comfortable with that. And so I changed his hair to be a bit longer. Also here I'm trying to draw a ponytail. This ponytail is why I gave him the your hairstyle. I didn't like how the ponytail looked, or the plait or any of that. And I think it made him look way too feminine, and while I was trying to go for an androgynous look, the femininity was way too, like, prominent, and far too, one too many people think Mori's a girl already, so I just had to change that a bit. Also, I feel like I should clarify this, since I do refer to him as being androgynous, but he doesn't necessarily identify as non-binary. He's a demi-boy. I almost said bigender. He's a demi-boy, meaning he goes by he, they pronouns. Obviously, I've learned that it's very hard to switch between he and they pronouns randomly throughout a video. I'll try to be more conscious of that, for obvious reasons. So right here, what I'm doing is I'm kind of mapping out where the wooden structures would be and how they'd look. I wanted to make his body look more human-like instead of that weird, bumpy, doll shape, especially since it's easier to work off of a more human body shape. Obviously, I did add all the wood there, but I also just kind of went into a more clean, rough sketch, you know? So I didn't only draw... Oh my gosh, cut that right there, just for a second. This part. I kept messing up. I couldn't figure out what shape I should make this part of his body, because like I couldn't really figure out what the angle would be or what would work for the like rotating joints. So I did eventually figure it out, but it took me way too long to figure out. So it's a good thing this video is sped up. Now I'm moving on to drawing his outfit, and he always wears the same thing. He only ever wears dungarees, okay? They'll switch between shirts, maybe, depending on how confident they're feeling in their arms, but they will always wear dungarees, especially because they like the fact that it always covers their legs. And I know they can use trousers for that, but it feels extra secure. There's also the fact that, because he watches a lot of TV shows and stuff like that, he likes that a lot of gardeners wear dungarees. And so he also wears the dungarees, because he also loves gardening. Now, here's where I remembered the fact that there was a childish aspect I was supposed to give to it. So I made him wear dungarees with short trousers. They're shorts. And I know that's somewhat out of character since he is so insecure of his legs, but I made up for that by giving him stockings, and those stockings are yellow, his favorite color, along with his shirt, which you'll see later on. So you can see part of his leg, which is good because that was a way I could show his physical trauma from being under the care from Overhaul. Moving on to the line art. Now onto a more art-based topic of this video. I used to not like this brush, but now I love this brush. I like the texture it gives my art. Before I thought the texture kind of made the art look really low quality and bitty, but now I actually really like the texture the brush gives my art. And so I also use it on my phone when drawing mobily, because this brush, it has the thing where if you draw fast with it, it gets thinner, which is good because I can't use line weight on my phone, like actually doing line weight just naturally with my hand. I have to add it in afterwards. So the fact that this brush moves on its own and does its own line weight, it takes an extra step off of my art, and which I honestly usually can't be bothered to do. So it means that I can be lazy and still be able to do something and still have my art look as good as it can, and still have art that looks as good as it can look without me having to put in the extra effort. Drawing the lines in his stockings, I used that as a way to add extra texture to the socks. I made it like slightly fluffy, squiggly lines to represent fluff, because his socks are soft. Obviously not all socks are going to be like super fluffy with noticeable fluff, but I do like this little feature that a lot of artists use to add texture to certain fabrics. I wish I could add more texture to all my fabrics, but I don't really know how to with certain fabrics, like for example his dungarees, which are denim, but they don't really look denim, unfortunately. And with my shirts, when drawing shirts, they don't really look super textured. I really do need to practice and study more about adding texture to clothing, honestly. Now here's where the being slumped over a tablet for an hour and a half really started getting to me. My back was killing me by this point, so when it came to doing rendering and maybe blocking in more of the color, I did that off camera. So you won't see a lot of the rendering process, but you will see this for now. You will see me coloring in the character. So I'll just speed that up, and you'll see I didn't change like any of its color palette other than his eye color. I didn't change his color palette because the color palette wasn't the thing that needed changing. All that needed changing really was his body type. And honestly, this art, it isn't as much of a redesign. I changed the color of his dungarees. I incorporated more yellow into his design to better represent not only his childlikeness, how childish he is, but to also represent just the fact that it is his favorite color. Is represent the right word to use there? Dunno. I changed his hair length, obviously all the things I did change, they were pretty minute, but it is a character redesign and character rethink nonetheless. It did encourage me, because at the end of the day, I did need to rethink the character, and maybe I'll better describe him at the end. Maybe I'll do a little thing being like, hey, this is a new Mori, this is his name, his personality, etc. Because before, his personality, it was too mature. Not that Mori is immature, he is a semi-functioning teenager, right? Like he is mature, but he acts immature. Like he is his age, but for example, let's use autistic people, for example. They aren't necessarily mentally a child just because they typically act in certain ways that are seen as childish, I'm back. I did a bit of rendering off screen. 1 second, it's loading. I also put in a jumper. The only one I could find was a Christmas one though, so that's unfortunate. Oh, Jesus Christ. It's a bit later in the day now, so my house might be a little bit noisy in the background. If you hear it in the background, please just try to ignore it. I'm gonna do my voiceovers and pretend they don't exist. There's not much to say about the rendering for this, except for how much I loathed rendering this shot. Did I say loathed right? Loathed is so hard to say with a lisp. Loathed. Rendering this was tough. I do like how I rendered his dungarees though, that was nice. Here I am adding his stash. My god, they're loud. I was drawing Mori's mustache here, and because obviously he's not going to know how to shave, is he? He's like, he's not going to know how to, and he's not going to want to put anything sharp near his face anyway. So he has a bit of a stash, and then I realized mid drawing his stash that he looks like that one commentary YouTuber. You know him? You know, the ginger guy? The ginger guy with long hair? Anyway, random ginger-haired commentary YouTubers aside, this is where I decided to remove Mori's tail. I hated it. I did not like how it looked. I cannot render tails for the life of me, and I just didn't like how it looked. It just looked weird, and it looked very out of place. So I just got rid of it. I removed the rendering, removed the tail, boom bam, it was gone. I'm done with the Mori tail. Here I felt like I should change his eye shape. I knew he had doe eyes, right? But I couldn't give him that tired look that he would have. You know, he's very restless, not much sleep. You can't really get much sleep given the atrocities he's been through and the things he's done. So he's just very dead, and he's also just very dead inside, right? So the eyes, they were just too lifelike. He was just too alive. So I had to get rid of him. Well, not get rid of the eyes. I had to reshape the eyes just a bit. I still don't think I really was able to capture the look I was going for, but I think it was. I think it's good enough. Now that I'm looking at it, I hate his mustache. I hate it so much. I just hate it. I 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 can't look at it. I hate it. It's ew. No. Anyways, let me know what you think about the redesign in the comments. If you've gotten this far, I'm gonna do this weird thing that all YouTubers do. If you've gotten this far, comment the plant emoji, any plant emoji. Just comment your favorite plant emoji. You know what? Comment that. And if you like the art in this video, please bear in mind that I am taking commissions. I just have to figure out how payment works. But I am taking commissions, so if you want to commission me, head over to my Instagram, head over to my Discord. I think I'll open Discord DMs just for commission, but for now, if you really want to commission me and you really want a response, go to Instagram.